Hello, my name is Maria Schmitz, and today we're here to talk about The Road to Character by David Brooks. Already Professor Marcus Gabriel finds morality sexy. In an interview on the already reviewed book, Moralischer Fortschritt in dunklen Zeiten, he answers the question how urgently we need morality now with the words, "It is the dictate of the moment for humankind to reflect on its moral capacities." Let me go even further, he says. There must be moral progress, incorporating universal values for the 21st century. Otherwise, we will fall into an abyss of unimaginable proportions. So although David Brooks, the author of The Road to Character, is himself a wealthy high achiever, he is not blind to the fact that American, or should I say also Western society in general, has become more narcissistic, the big me. The author detests this and blames individualism. He therefore wrote the book to reach for something beyond mundane happiness. This comes in for a lot of criticism, but it also gives the book a somewhat spiritual touch. In today's crazy world, or mad world as Gentleman sings, people need more content to their lives than mere work glory. This is David Brooks' message. While his critics cannot seem to make any sense of his concern that the competition to succeed and win admiration is so fierce that it becomes all-consuming, I find that this is by no means a new argument or experience. Enough people have ended up with burnout and simply changed their jobs to pursue something completely different that fulfills them. Brooks sees a need for virtues like humility, sympathy, honest self-confrontation, selflessness, generosity, and self-sacrifice to build character. And of course, here we're only naming a few virtues. His quest is to identify the virtues that help an individual to become deeply rooted in something spiritual and permanent. The author examines two sides of our nature, Adam 1 and Adam 2, whereby his focus was definitely on Adam 2. Adam 1, he says, is stuffed with so-called resume virtues, the career virtues. Adam 1 wants to build, create, produce, win, and appear high status. Adam 1 comes from a society that breeds goal-oriented egoists, from a society that rewards behavior that leads to success, in inverted commas, and promotes calculation and self-interest, a veritable me-first culture that is supposed to make us competitive. Adam 2, in contrast, represents the eulogy virtues. That is what people say about us after we're gone. Brooks states that both sides of us are in constant conflict, as if the eulogy virtues are not needed at work, and as if it is a given that two souls struggle for balance in the breast of every human being. Adam 2 knows that in order to fulfill themselves, they have to forget themselves. In order to find themselves, they have to lose themselves. We are called at certain moments to comfort people who are enduring some trauma. Many of us don't know how to react in such situations, but others do. In the first place, these people just show up. They provide a ministry of presence. Next, they don't compare. The sensitive person, he says, understands that each person's ordeal is unique and should not be compared to anyone else's. Next, they do the practical things, like making lunch, dusting the room, washing the towels. Finally, they don't try to minimize what is going on. They don't attempt to reassure with false saccharine sentiments. They don't say that the pain is all for the best. They don't search for silver linings. They do what wise souls do in the presence of tragedy and trauma, etc. Then he moves on to talk about the humility code, whereby, according to Goodreads, humility is the awareness that there's a lot you don't know and that a lot of what you think you know is distorted or wrong. So what is the humility code? Near the end of the book, Brooks presents the humility code, which contains these and some other images, insights, and virtues as markers of how to live. We don't live of happiness, we live for holiness. Number 2, the long road to character begins with an accurate understanding of our own nature, and the core of that understanding is that we are flawed creatures. Although we are flawed creatures, we are also splendidly endowed. Nobody will object to that. And we are both weak and strong, bound and free, blind and far-seeing. In the struggle against our own weakness, humility is the greatest virtue, he says. Pride is the central vice. No person can achieve self-mastery on their own. We are all ultimately saved by grace. No good life is possible unless it is organized around a vocation. And finally, the person who successfully struggles against weakness and sin may or may not become rich and famous, but that person will become mature, Brooks says. The author seems to be in search of something larger than himself, larger than life itself. And in his next book, he poses the question of how we can lead a meaningful life in a self-centered world. The book is a criticism of American individualism by an American author. The critique could be extended to the West in general, as most Western countries are individualist. One reason why it has drawn my attention is that here is someone who seems to have a problem with too much individualism, a cultural standard. This makes the book provocative. We live in a society, Brooks argues, that celebrates freedom. Fine, but the author thinks we have taken individualism to the extreme, and in the process we have torn the social fabric in 1,000 different ways. While popular Western culture tells us how to win and get ahead, there is little attention paid to one's spiritual and moral character. But isn't that the case with anything that is taken to extremes? This is not the first time that individualism has been caught in the crossfire. Not even on my channel. We have already discussed this topic in the book of the economists Paul Collier and John Kay, The End of Greed. This book was subtitled How Radical Individualism is Tearing Our Society Apart and How Politics Can Counteract It. So some of you might already be thinking or saying, it's all about finding a middle path. We need to integrate Adam 1 and Adam 2 into our nature. Brooks suggests that handy tools in the forging of character include suffering, love, humility, vocation, and obedience. Character is a set of dispositions, he says, desires and habits that are slowly engraved during the struggle against our own weaknesses. And so the question remains, character counts, but is it innate? Can it be taught, or is it best acquired experientially? Feel free to share your insights in the commentary section of this video.